Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you can see my face or hear my voice, you know that can mean only one thing. That's right. It is time once again for the worst 120 minutes or so in all of sports podcasting. We're back. It's time for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Yeah, we've been off and a little bit inconsistent over the month of February. It was Black History Month. We were running on CP time. Yeah, we'll do that from time to time. Now, there was work, travel, for me, a Super Bowl hangover that I'm only starting to get over with. Thank you, Manchester United, for saving me from losing my fourth consecutive championship in the span of like 3 months. But we're back, and we're happy to be here. I'm Mike, and I am joined, as I am pretty much every show, by my partner in all things podcasting, producer Stead. How goes it, my friend?
Going pretty good. Going pretty good. The sports world is on fire, especially in the niche sports that we like to follow. And I'll say that I'm gonna throw my early show hand grenade, which basically says that FIFA awards are somewhat trash. I'll just go with that.
Do tell, because we saw Lionel Messi get FIFA Player of the Year.
Oh, hold on 1 second. I have an intrusion by my little girl. Come here, baby girl. Come here, Lindy.
With a bear that is bigger than her.
Come see it. First, it's the most adorable little girl in the world.
Yes, it is a grown-up, not baby Yoda.
Say hi to Uncle Mike.
Hey, Lindy, how is it? Good?
All right. Go to bed, baby girl. Good night.
With the bear that's bigger than she is.
Oh, absolutely. That's going to get us all the ratings we need right there, man.
Yes. All right. Hey, if you don't like us, you can't be mad at a cute little girl with a humongous teddy bear that giggles. Impossible. She should make her obligatory entrance every week at this time, I'll say. Yes. Yeah. She's much better than G.
That's true. Sorry. I wasn't expecting that. That's very true. She's much better than G. Absolutely. But okay, that's all I was saying. Yeah. I think the best thing to come out of the FIFA Awards show was this Puskas Award. Did you actually see the winner?
No, you know what? Because I very rarely follow these things, but
agreed. Me too. I didn't even know that the awards were happening until about 2 hours ago. And because, anytime anything happens to Lionel Messi, they must shove it down our throats, completely, almost like, or shove it up our rear ends like an anal suppository. But I did see the goal. Quite impressive goal. One of I've seen various tournaments where they have players missing limbs for various reasons. And I know Africa has a tournament like that as well. But it was quite the side volley. I was one of those things that I watched and I went, oh, that was quite impressive. That was some goal. That was pretty nice. But outside of that, I was pretty about the whole thing because it's at an awkward time of year. Nothing's really ended. It's just sort of thrown in there. Emi Martinez winning goalie of the year was stupid.
We've said so much though of this is based on your performance in a international tournament when there is an international
but we even said he wasn't even the best goalie in the World Cup. He just happened to be on the team that won. So it just lets you know that the whole thing is just really kind of like it's not that it ever had luster, but I guess what little luster it had, it's slowly whittling away because no one really cares anymore.
It's another trophy for Lionel Messi to pick up. And this one doesn't have the cachet of a Ballon d'Or. I mean, if you remember, the Ballon d'Or used to be an independent trophy. So FIFA had to have their own player of the year. But now they've kind of taken over the voting for the Ballon d'Or. So it's, I don't know, it's like, I want to say it's like the Maxwell Award that goes to the college football's best player versus the Heisman.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just doesn't.
And they don't really do anything for me because, all of these to me are like the college awards, very much the Ballon d'Or, whatever you want to call it, is like the Heisman. We know that it may not go to the best player. It's not going to go to a defender.
Right.
There's almost no shot that
Right.
it will go to a goalkeeper.
Right.
Right. Even if a couple of years ago, Virgil van Dijk was arguably the best player on the face of the planet for that one season, there was no chance that he was going to get it.
Right.
Because he doesn't have stats.
Right. And we could even say that about the couple of years when N'Golo Kante was clearly the best player in the world, and it wasn't happening for him either. Yeah.
So you've got this thing where, like, the Heisman, unless there's a wide receiver that comes up with it, is never going to win it. In that way, it's almost like the NFL MVP. A wide receiver has never won an NFL MVP.
Absolutely. And in the past, you're looking at it too, going, that's why they have the Offensive Player of the Year award. It's basically who was the best offensive player that wasn't a quarterback. And so, and lately, that's
then they still give it to quarterbacks a lot of times.
Yeah, at the time it's the second best quarterback in the league.
Yeah,
it's going to see the Joe Burrow award pretty soon because he can't be Mahomes.
I don't pay attention to him. I know that it means something to the players. There's a nice bonus in it. I'm pretty sure that if you win this or you're in the Beef Pro World's Best 11, you get a bonus. It can affect transfer fees and things like that.
Might get you a sponsorship or something.
Yeah, but by and large, and it's great to brag about, certainly to push this winner of best goal of the year, that goes to whoever has the best goal of the year.
Yeah.
And I was just checking it out. It was a Polish amputee whose name I'm not going to try and attempt to pronounce with justice, but it was a really good side volley. Yeah.
Beautiful kick. I think that's probably the one thing to applaud about the whole show is that was when you see it, it reeks of reaching to make someone feel good, So I was happy to see that in goal and have it that was really impressive, especially considering the ball was crossed from behind him and he had to reach back and contort and everything and really balance on the crutch effectively. You can tell it's something that he's worked and he's practiced, but it's beautiful shot.
They also had him recreate the shot in training, so you can tell that he knows how to do that particular shot.
Right.
Like, it's not. Let's just say it's not the first time this dude has done that.
Right. Exactly.
But
he did a much better job than Giroud did with his scorpion kick that went in, which was obviously, I'm surprised his eyes were even open when he shot that. So,
and of course, the one that they did in training, they just showed a picture of him. Not the ball going into the net. So you can imagine that even though he practiced it and he's confident in getting his body into that position, there's as many times as you're going to put it in the back of the net as you're going to put it in row Z.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Completely.
But yeah, I guess I not the way I thought that we were going to start the show, because we were talking about everything going on in the sports world. And it is, we wrapped up football season. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, I'm still bitter about that. But we're in the middle. We just reached past the halfway point of the Six Nations. I'm sure we'll talk about that again when we get on with Celtic Cam. We had the League Cups in both Scotland and England this weekend. And it was great because you had the Scottish League Cup going on at the exact same time as the Scotland-France game. So at one point in time, I was not sure whether Celtic Cam, I needed a proof of life on him. Of course, he was double streaming it. He was side by siding it, as I was at one point when I was in the bar and it was late in that game. And I'm sitting and I'm watching the EFL Cup final in between Manchester United and Newcastle, which I'm streaming at the bar. We had a really fantastic turnout this time. I was really happy to see a lot of them. The number of people, and in fact, the number of people that we don't normally get out for games who came out to watch that one. So I had the game up that I was streaming on my computer hooked up to the TV. And then on my iPad, I had the France-Scotland rugby game. And then on my cell phone, I had the last couple of minutes of the Old Firm. So I was triple screening it at one point in time.
I was able to get the double stream going. I was able to, because I kept looking on Paramount because I know SPL's on Paramount. But then, of course, with it being a League Cup match, I was like, oh, that's right, it's a different distribution deal. So I was able to get the last 10 minutes of the game. And I mean, I've said this before. I'll just say this again. If you need to be introduced to football, the world football, do not watch the Old Firm, because that game is like no other game. And you will watch that game and you will think that every game you see should be like that game. It will ruin football for you if that's your introduction to football. Those are some of the best games you see. The level of excitement and passion and free-flowing football you see from that, it's always just a joy to watch. So if you are a seasoned football fan, then yes, watch all the Old Firm games. If you're not, don't watch Old Firm, because that's not how it always is.
Okay, I'm going the opposite direction. I am saying go ahead and watch it because of all the reasons that you listened.
It's such a good game. It's like so exciting.
So last weekend was President's Weekend, and I went down to visit my mother, and one of her friends had this very, very, very expensive bottle of wine. I mean, like this $400-$500 bottle of wine that he opened, and he wanted to share it with the guys because, as he said, I have this really nice bottle of wine. I'm never going to drink it all by myself, so I might as well share it.
Absolutely.
And so now I am a seasoned wine drinker, but not at that level. And I tried it, and it was everything that you wanted it to be.
Really interesting. Because I've heard that you got to be careful with those high price bottles, because sometimes it's like, as you said, if you don't know what you're doing, it can really be something that's quite off-putting.
But this one, it was very mellow. It had all the fruits. It was everything that I wanted it to be. And I was like, you know what? I could probably see if like this was my first one, or if I was a novice and I was just getting into it, drinking this and then going out and wanting to try other things to see if I could find that particular flavor or something close to it. Because the fact of the matter is, my wallet at this point in time cannot handle a shut enough to pop. This very elite wine it was of 2015. I've heard Kevin O'Leary talk about this particular wine region on Shark Tank, and so I know like this is no joke when you drink it. And so it was really good. And I'm like, if I'm trying to get into something and I watch the Old Firm, and I know, we can tell everybody, it's not always going to be like that. But man, if it wouldn't be fun to keep watching Scottish football to see if you could get that again.
Yeah, I understand that.
And then when you contrast that to the other final that was happening at the same time in the EFL Cup, that was a much better contest between the two teams. I felt like Rangers created a number of opportunities.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of attack. I saw Rangers put a lot of pressure on Celtic's back line, but for a really solid center back pairing and goalkeeper, that's where Celtic's strength is. And then a great attacking with Kyogo scoring the 2 goals. It could have been different. So it ends up 2-1. I thought that it was a highly entertaining game, and I thought it was more so entertaining than the EFL Cup final, which had about 6 minutes of action surrounding 84, another 90 plus with injury time of not much.
Yeah.
And all I could liken back to say is what Jose used to say: finals are meant to be won, not played.
Right. And we've often seen cup finals in particular really have the air taken out of the sails in a lot of these games, where it's almost like the worst thing that could happen is an early goal. because then it's really like, okay, well, this is going to be a park the bus game where there's not going to be a whole lot of action going on. And you see the team that's one up is going to defend. And the team that's down 0-1 is going to try everything they can not to make another mistake and hope they can hopefully get to a shootout. And it does lead to some dull finals. But I will say, I think I was happy to see that it was United and United. It was Newcastle Brownell versus Manchester, because at least I thought with that game, because I didn't tune into too much of the match, because as what you were saying, it wasn't the most exciting game, but I was hoping to see a bit more, considering, as you said, Manchester United had gone through a somewhat trophy slump for Manchester United standards.
Well, yeah, I mean, for anybody's standards at that level, when you've competed at the level that United has, to slide back to a point where this is your first trophy in what, 7 years, 7 years, I think it is.
But to see Newcastle in a final, I thought that was really good. That's, I mean, when you look at Premier League history, that's a Premier League historic team. They haven't won a considerable amount of anything, but they've been good, and they have been good in the past 10 years. So to see them be good again and to reach a cup final, and as you know, I'm a huge Eddie Howe guy. I was happy for them, and I think because of their ownership situation, a lot of people weren't wanting them to come out and win a cup so soon, but I thought it was good for them to get to a cup final to really show that, yeah, Eddie Howe can coach, and he should be in line for a Big Six job, or he's going to take Newcastle and he's going to knock out a current Big Six team that's not going to be Big Six anymore. So it's good for him.
Yeah, he doesn't need to take another job.
I agree. I don't think he does. I think the bigger mistake would be if Newcastle lets him go. That would be a huge mistake.
That would be absolutely a travesty. Now, let's first and foremost, let's give credit to the Toon Army, who descended on London en masse. Everybody who I have talked to who was over in that area gave them full credit. Over 100,000 of them showing up.
That's awesome.
The tifo that they did at the beginning and the end of the game with the black and white flags around their stadium, making their half of the stadium look like their traditional black and white stripes, was absolutely amazing. They were the more vocal of the two sets of fans, at least until the goals went in. They definitely did credit, and you could say, that fan base deserved it, right? It would have been their first triumph since 1955. I think Eddie Howe has done a great job to get them there. I think he has to deal with something, though, like if we include this game in what we have seen, there is a general problem with them this season, which is that they just don't score enough goals.
No, absolutely.
And the goals have sort of dried up for them. Now, that is something that he will have to deal with, because even when he was at Bournemouth, they didn't score a lot of goals. They didn't
score a whole lot of goals, no. But I think you put it best to say how the goals have dried up, because they still have a 20-goal differential in the Premier League, but that's leaning on what they were doing about 6 weeks ago.
They just didn't lose a lot. They're drawing many games.
Absolutely, but they haven't scored more than 2 goals since December. They haven't scored more than 2. So, and they've only scored 2. Let me see if I can find real quick. They've only scored 2 goals twice since then. So yeah, the goals are drying up, and Isak's got to do more. And I think is he injured? I think he might be injured right now.
Well, I did not see him. He was not playing, so
he hasn't been playing much lately. I feel like he's injured. I could be mistaken, but that's the guy. But that's the money guy. Yeah. So, and Callum Wilson's not scoring. Another guy that is supposed to be putting in goals for them, but I believe their leading goal scorer is Miguel Almiron, if I'm mistaken.
Well, yeah, and he has been a fantastic pickup for them. He's really come into his own under Eddie Howe, and I love. He was a guy, but I think he picked up a knock early in the game. Now he stayed on, as I recall, but he wasn't as effective as he could have been.
Right.
Given the opportunity, though, Eddie Howe will win them a championship. They are on an upward trajectory.
I absolutely
this is
agree.
not a This is not a point in time to abandon ship and go looking for bigger game.
Right.
I can't say that you would bring in somebody right now who would be better. Number one. Number two, you are always at Newcastle going to be at a massive disadvantage no matter how much money you have, because you still need to get to recruit players to Tyneside, which is an awkward place to live, right?
It's dark.
Anybody who watched,
cold. Yeah,
it's dark, it's cold, it's closer to Scotland than it is to London. The weather is kind of bad. I know that people embrace their team, and they will always be, but the team is the center of any. It is like trying to recruit guys to go out to Salt Lake City or up to Green Bay, right? You know, when you have a highly sought after player like a Jude, let's take a Jude Bellingham, right? And you give him the option of London or even Manchester, Liverpool, or Newcastle. I can tell you that Newcastle will most likely be a little bit
won't be
further
going to
down
Newcastle
the
now.
list.
Not in your biggest rivalry, Sunderland. No.
So, you know, you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to recruiting players is going to be an issue, especially until they get past this phase where they're growing the brand, right? You know, once it becomes a top, let's say they expand it and they become a top 7 side this time around, right? Then, you know, it'll be a little bit better because they'll be competing for Champions Leagues. They'll be competing for trophies. They'll be up in there, and guys will know, okay, if I come here, I can live here for the 9 months that it takes. I can survive it that much because I know what the benefits are to doing it. But until they reach that point, you know, you're going to have to rely very heavily on players like Alexander Isak, who is all the potential in the world. And we've known about this kid since he was a teenager, but has yet to consistently deliver at a high level on that potential, either domestically or in the league, right? And so you're going to get guys like that, right? They might be in more for like a Marcus Thuram or somebody like that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, absolutely agreed. That's actually a good pull. I think that a player like that who's kind of on the cusp of superstardom can go and really do well there.
But he's also a little bit older than you would think of somebody
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, but he's also like 25. You know, he's not 19.
And it wasn't like he was used at the World Cup. People saw him at the World Cup. But again, tell me what the defining moment for him was at the World Cup.
Yeah.
So you're going to get more and more players like that, but you can put together a winning side with that. Look, Manchester United won a trophy with Wout Weghorst starting at center forward because that was what we had, right? So those things can be done.
And no matter and no matter how many times I can trash in the League Cup, I'm still mad we lost that final to Birmingham City. So you know, a trophy's a trophy, especially one that requires more than one game to win in order to get it. As opposed, I'm speaking about you know charity shields and stuff like that. But so it is what it is, and it's something to be proud of when you win one.
Okay, when you get to the point where you're an established trophy winning factory, like a City or a Liverpool are in their development right now, you can afford to play youth players in that tournament because you know that you have Champions League. You know that you are consistently challenging for other honors. Right now, teams like United are in a building phase where they need to win this. People forget, even before Sir Alex won, all the stuff that he won. The first thing he needed to win was an FA Cup. And then later on in their development, it became possible for him to use that as more of a developmental trophy tournament. But at least early on in his tenure, had he not won that first one, I think in 91,
Yeah.
he may not have survived.
And
So
we say the same thing about Arteta, who, he hasn't
he
really won
needed those
anything yet,
FA
but
Cups.
he got one.
He
And that bought him the time that he needed in order to build the squad that he currently has. And still given the leeway to continue to tinker with it, which they're giving him the ability to do. So yeah, absolutely.
So Cam's pointing out that he took Aberdeen through Europe, but I was talking more about what he did at Manchester United and the need to establish sort of this idea that we can, in fact, win stuff.
We're not going to forget about anything with the SPL as long as Cam's lurking in the background.
Yes.
I think it means it's time to bring in Cam.
Bring him on. Yes. So welcome on our good friend from the land of enchantment. Yes, resplendent in his Celtic kit and flag. Cam, I was telling Stead earlier, I got to the bar to watch Manchester United. I got the TV hooked up, so I'm streaming the game at the bar so that we can watch it because it's on ESPN Plus. I'm not giving the name of the location lest anybody listening decide to find them for that. But yeah, that happened. And on my iPad, I have France-Scotland rugby, and on my cell phone, I have the end of the Old Firm derby. So there was a point in time where all of that was going on, and I was like, can anybody get a proof of life on Cam? But then you managed to send us a picture of you live stream double screening the game, so I knew you were all right. So Sunday had the opportunity to go really, really well or really, really poorly for you, and it kind of split down the middle. Celtic wins, beats Rangers, wins the first trophy of the season, the Scottish League Cup, and unfortunately, Scotland Rugby goes down early. They get an early red card. They let in 2 tries, and they're just never really able to battle back from that early deficit they gave themselves. So I'm going to give it to you, your option. Which one do you want to tackle first, the Scottish League Cup or is it Six Nations?
Let's tackle the Scottish League Cup first because I thought that was a fantastic game. I really did.
We said the exact same thing. I thought that of the 2 finals that was being played that day, they were much better. It was a lot of end-to-end stuff. Rangers certainly put some pressure on the Celtic defense, but when you've got that center back pairing paired with Joe Hart, there's just a certain calmness now. And I feel like Cameron Carter-Vickers is just so assured back there with who he's playing with and who's to his right, who's to his left, who's in front of him, and who's behind him, that he just never seems to get flustered. Even when everything around him is breaking in, he can just calmly come in with that crucial block to defect that goalward shot off. And, they see out these chances because there were certainly some opportunities. I would say probably the first 10 minutes were a lot of Celtic, but then after that, Rangers had a pretty decent spell for about 10, 15, 20 minutes there where they looked like they could get that opener. It's Kyogo who settles it. He's got both goals. Rangers pulls one back, but it is Celtic who gets the win in an Old Firm, a win in an Old Firm final, and they draw first blood this year, picking up the trophy.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct on that. The first half was a little shaky. Second half, I think we were able to run that, especially, as you say, give props to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Again, let's remember, this was a guy that was in Tottenham's squad that was a nobody. We picked him up and he's now a stalwart of our defense. Him and Starfelt together, they have, since they started pairing together, have yet to lose a game. So we now have a back 2 that are really, really strong. We've got Johnson on the side, a Canadian international, who's also fantastic, who's partnering with them really, really well. So that back line, for the first time in many years I can remember. We have a solid back line that, to be honest, doesn't give me the jitters, which is fantastic. It's really, really good. And Kyogo, what we have up front is also ridiculous. I mean, it was a hard fought game, but at the end of the game, it was the right result. It was for sure the right results. Celtic were the team that deserved to win, especially in that second half. We were just pushing continuously. We spent more time in their half than they spent in our midfield. So I think it was the right result for sure.
All I can say about Celtics attack right now is they can let somebody like Georgios Giammakis go to Atlanta United, make a little bit of a profit on him, put in a sell-on clause, and be like, you know what? Vaya con Dios, we already have somebody coming up that we've picked up from the J League that's going to come in and do your job. And he may not look like you, but we like him.
But the J League pipeline is strong.
The J League,
It's undiscovered. Yeah,
that J League,
which I'm surprised that it's still not sought after to the point that it should be, because we've seen J League players have success in teams in Germany, Italy,
Kamada,
England,
Minamako.
Yeah, let's not forget the success. Of course, his name's leaving me, with Leicester, and by the time he was having a success with Leicester, he was already in his 30s. So and knowing their passion for that sport out there, Korea and Japan, there's a lot of talent out there. There is a lot, and you're seeing the more exposure that those countries are getting. Because I know for a while the willingness to allow, like, the leagues out there, they aren't so easy at letting players go play abroad.
Right,
they're not. Especially, I mean, we saw that. If you're following baseball at all, you see that with baseball. But since I was a child living in Japan till now, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that football has passed baseball as the number one sport that the children are playing. So the pipeline, and it's already the number one sport in Korea. It's been that way for a very long time. So I don't know. I think this is the kind of the second start, but also you're seeing the fact that the J League and the K League are attracting players from not just Brazil anymore. They're getting players from Nigeria and Ghana. They're getting players from Turkey. They're getting players, and they were doing what MLS is doing. They were doing that 20, 30, 40 years ago, where they were getting kind of old players who kind of retire out in Japan, other kind of. The J League is a quality league. The K League is a quality league, and the growth is coming. And I think you're going to see more and more players from those two countries in Europe.
Well, Hearts picked up a Japanese player a few weeks ago too, following in our footsteps. And he's settled in. His name is escaping me right now, but they are now looking at that same pipeline. And I think you're absolutely right. The world is now taking a look at that pipeline, that players that come from Japan, Korea. We picked up O from Korea, who's been fantastic for us as a sub. Absolutely fantastic. And I think he could be starter material. That kind of pipeline over there is it's exploding. And hence why we are now going to be doing a Japanese tour over in Japan.
Very, very smart.
We talked about this a few weeks ago, and we wondered, are they going to do it? I said, I hope they do, because I think it's the right move. They are now going to do it, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
Shinji Okazaki.
Okazaki.
Put some respect on your name, Shinji. Put some respect on your name. Absolutely.
So, full on to Celtic. Hopefully this time when they travel over, though, they actually bring shirts with them, because I've seen them like show up here in the United States to play like the Union, and they forgot to bring the memorabilia with them.
Sounds about right. About right.
No, like you could go in. There were Real Madrid shirts everywhere in all of the state to be born. You couldn't buy a piece of Celtic merchandise no matter how much you wanted one.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be good for them, and these guys are going to be celebrities when they get back there, and they'll draw a ton of attention.
Absolutely.
Be a potential, for a lot of these clubs, Celtic, Arsenal,
Mhm.
Manchester United. This is the first time that you've had since COVID to really go on that money spinning tour. And it's a good idea that, if you have the following that Celtic now does in some place like Japan because of Angie, because of um, Maeda, because of Kyogo, because of the players that they have on that team, you might as well take advantage of it. Let them
Mhm.
play a couple of games. Why not? It's not a long trip to South Korea. Play a game or two over in South
Right.
Korea. Let O play in front of his home fans.
Right.
Use that because that's what it's there for.
Yeah, and Celtic has had Japanese players before, like
Mhm.
decades ago. So,
Yes. Yep.
Nakamura,
Shinji Nakamura.
great free kicker. So,
Yeah.
so I kind of felt like, but I think we said this on a previous podcast. We've done so many of these, we're starting to gel together. But it was sort of like Celtic almost blew their shot when they had him before, because this is, I mean, and Nakamura wasn't like one guy they brought. They had a few guys.
Right.
So hey, you've done this before. Don't screw it up this time,
Right.
because you had your chance to build your fan base in a part of the world that is foreign sport mad.
Yes.
Just mad.
It's a great way to put it. That
They
is a fantastic way to
soak
put
it up over there.
Yeah.
They soak it up. I sent my stepmother's Japanese. I sent her nephew a t-shirt after the Bulls won back-to-back championships in the early 90s. He still has it and wears it to this day. All the stickum is all off and everything like that. He still has it.
Good
and
for
his
him.
friends ask him where he got it from. So that is a place to be when you're trying to expand and really get your imprint out there. If you have a following, a built-in following, and they follow their people.
They do.
Boy, they follow their people.
Damn, they do. Yeah.
Get over there, man. Get over there and get that paper. Get that money.
No, that's what I'm saying.
They will pay. And
this test that going over there, if Celtic does end up going over there, which they're pretty much set on, you're exactly right. You're
go
gonna
play
get
Kashima
that
Antlers.
paper,
Go play
as long
Kashima
as they
Antlers
remember
in
the
stadium. They have a
shirts.
great game.
Yeah. As long as they So let's talk about what the rest of the league looks like. Both Celtic and Rangers at the top of the league were off this weekend because they were playing in the Scottish League Cup. Hearts and Hibs would have been their respective opponents, so they also did not play. But again, we have movement. Aberdeen picks up a big win over Livingston. That puts them into the 6th spot on goal differential, but Livingston have a game in hand. There are still only 6 points separating Hibs in 4th and St. Johnstone in 8th. And we are not that far. What are we?
7 games,
8 games, 7, 8 games, 8 games.
That's after 33 games is a split?
Yeah.
Yeah, 33.
Yeah, so 6 or, 7 or 8.
6 or 7 games.
7 games,
from the split. And you have, again, this sort of division. We might have been able to see this at the beginning of the season because the top 3 look a lot this year like they did last year, right? And so we have Celtic in first. They have a 9-point lead over Rangers in second, who then have a 22-point lead over Hearts in third, who own 5 points over Hibs. Like I said, it's bunched up between 4th and 8th. Motherwell, Ross County, Kilmarnock. Ross County, Kilmarnock tied on points. One of them is going to avoid having to face a relegation playoff. And then Dundee United, not too far out. They're only 4 points back of Kilmarnock and Ross County, and they've played a game less. But, you start to have this thing where you have, again, this really great. Now, I think if you want to pay attention to something, how this race to get into the top half develops off the over the course of the next couple of months, the next couple of games, because look, if you get into the 6th place, only one team out of that team that's going to be playing in the top half, only one team doesn't get into Europe.
Right.
Whereas if you end up in the 7th, you're done.
You're dead. Yeah, it's that kind of 4th position to 8th position could be such a mashup right now until the split happens. I mean, those teams, it's crazy. I mean, you've got decent teams in there too. You've got Hibs, St. Mirren, Aberdeen, Livingston, St. Johnston. Teams that could potentially, I mean, I'm looking at St. Johnston, Aberdeen, St. Mirren to try to hold their way up. Hibs has been decent, but not quite. It's difficult to say. I mean, I could see them staying up, but Livingston, Aberdeen is where I'm looking right now, where the switch could occur. I could see Livingston overtaking Aberdeen, but it's such a weird bloody concept.
And the reason why, like, for a team like St. Mirren, Aberdeen to a certain extent, certainly Livingston and St. Johnson's, that money just even from going into Europa Conference League is a significant windfall.
Ridiculous for them. Yeah, it's
I mean,
massive.
Just being able to say that we're going to play in Europe can give you some separation.
Right.
Hearts' ability to be in the Europa League this year, I think, is what has given them the ability to get some separation and sit and stay in that 3rd position where, look, are they going to challenge Rangers? Certainly not with the 22-point deficit, but they're also not really at risk of falling out of that guaranteed Europa League spot that they're sitting in right now in 3rd place. That's a group stage spot. That'll be good for them. Even if their last run through Europe wasn't exactly the best thing to look at, they've got an extra year to go in. That's additional revenue that they're going to get. That's players. That's 1 or 2 players that they, or however many they can bring in. So this money, when you're dealing in Scotland, that's a significant windfall for some of these teams.
It's a big deal. I mean, they've got someone fantastic. I mean, they've got Lauren Shankland on their team, someone that I was saying last year we should have picked up, and I still say to this day that we should have picked him up. An absolute goal scoring machine. He's keeping them up right there where they are, and you're exactly right. That's for the Scottish League, that's going to be money right there. Like, however you look at it. Hearts going into Europa, that's going to be money for them. That's going to enable them to get those few extra players they need that they could then support Lauren Shankland in terms of goal scoring ability. Aberdeen has Miovski. I mean, that's why I'm thinking Aberdeen's going to stay up a little bit here. I think Aberdeen is going to be able to make that split cut. I mean,
they've just been so ridiculously inconsistent.
Their management has been really piss poor, to put it bland. It's been a shame because I think if they had good management, they could have ended up, where Hibs is. I really do think they could have, and it's such a shame for a club like that, a club with a deep history. I feel for Aberdeen. I do. I do feel for them. So.
Yeah, but the hope is, though, if they are one of those teams that can get into the top half and sneak into that 5th or 6th spot, that 4th or 5th spot where they're competing in Europe, you're going to be able to attract a better league caliber of manager because you're going to have somebody who's going to say, all right, look, I get to manage in Europe. Right. You'll be able to get a higher profile manager. All right, let's switch some gears and let's talk about instead our favorite annual tournament. Oh, he's going to change.
Got to change shirts.
Yes. The Six Nations. So I got to say, gents, the surprises of Six Nations, no disrespect to Scotland, who have played extremely well, but the team that has surprised me the most is Italy. I mean, they
took my thunder, brother. That's what I was going to say. Go ahead, though. Go ahead.
Have they not looked? It used to be you walked into Rome and you expected to come out with a bonus point win. Both the games that they have played thus far in this tournament against Rome have been against France and Ireland, and they have really troubled both of them.
Absolutely. I'm thoroughly impressed. That was my stomping team for the last years when I watched this, and I was like, why are they even there? To see their improvement. I mean, I haven't been more impressed by a team that's been losing by 12 points than
instead. I had to say the same thing. I felt the same exact way. Yeah. Why are they there?
Right.
I felt the same exact way.
Yeah.
Until this.
They got a Irish coach in, and he has just transformed them into such a better attacking, decision-making team. Some of the runs that they make now,
Yes. The build-up
way
play
that-
that they're putting together.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
do
go
we
ahead,
have a
yeah.
minute to talk about Capuzzo?
Yes, we have enough time to talk. Yeah,
The kid is insane. He's young. He's bringing vitality to the team. He's fantastic. He's an absolute fantastic player.
and so I got to be honest, Wales needs to watch out because the way that Wales is playing, and I know that Warren Gatland is a seasoned coach. He's won a couple of Six Nations. He's won a couple of Grand Slams. But the way that Wales is playing right now versus this energetic, daring Italian team, Wales could be in trouble when they have to play that game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm not going to put it on Scotland. Cam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that this game, the next round the next round is Scotland play Ireland in the last, or I'm sorry, Scotland play Italy in the last round, if I'm not mistaken, and that game is in Hampden, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Or are they playing in Rome?
No, both the next games are in Scotland.
Okay, so they've got their last two at Hampden.
At home.
If that game was in Rome on the last one, I might be a little fearful for Scotland, but I think that the one thing that we've seen is when Italy travels, they did not look as good in Twickenham against England as they did in Rome against either England or Ireland.
Yeah,
So,
but I want to say this though, like their game against France, when they played against France, they gave France all they could handle, gave France all sorts of problems, and then after not looking so well at Twickenham, I was expecting that to be the end of Italy. I was expecting that to be like, okay, they had their game. Now get ready for the wooden spoon. And the bounce back was really, really, really impressive. And you're looking at that game, you look at Ireland's number one in the world right now. And Ireland, of course, being the number one team, they were able to pull away in the end and show why they're just better than Italy was. But
they were also playing without a few key players. I know Johnny Sexton was out. One of their other important players was. So they were not playing. They were playing a more experimental side. That's what number one teams do.
Right. That's what you can do. But still, Italy is coming to play. They're coming to play. And I mean, they've won what? They've won nearly all wooden spoons in the past 20 years, outside of a few that Scotland managed to take. You're looking like Wales might get a wooden spoon this year.
Right now, they're in that position. Ireland has a point.
That's kind of the game I want to see.
Italy has that point, and that's in the next round of fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, if I had to pick a game to watch, I kind of want to see what's going to happen with this game, because Wales looks terrible. They can't get out of their own way. Wales, first of all, they seem to get right to the touchline and turn the ball over every time. I don't understand. And I'm too new to rugby to get what the problem is. And I'm like, y'all, give the ball to Marshawn Lynch and score a touchdown. They just can't seem to get over the line. And then they're holding the ball, hold it too long, and they turn it over.
And then a foul comes up.
And foul, So
it was so Ireland, they have gotten the maximum number of points in all of their games thus far. France's defeat of Scotland kind of sets them up pretty nicely. It means that it's now their tournament to lose. They are the number one team in the world, but that makes the game in a fortnight a little bit more interesting, because the next round of fixtures. So says
the next round of fixtures, we're going to see Scotland beat Ireland, and then Scotland's going to get Italy's going to come home to Scotland. They're going to get trampled, and Scotland is going to win the Six Nations Cup.
But where are you picking up that bonus point that Ireland has that you don't right now?
Oh, when we trample Italy.
Okay. And you
And
need them to.
and when we trample Ireland and Italy, I should say.
Okay. Right.
You don't
We're
seem
gonna we're gonna figure out where we're gonna watch that game, because I was talking to Stead about that.
Yeah.
I think we need to all, that's coming up on what is it's Sunday
Well,
it's Sunday the 12th. So we all three of us definitely need to get together to watch it.
mhm.
I have a place Cam, if you're willing to watch it at a bar with a bunch of Irish people.
Oh, beautiful.
Cam, listen, I got 2 weeks to get a Scotland shirt. I'll get one just to come support you, brother. All right.
No, Stead, don't worry about it. I'll loan you mine.
Yeah.
I have one.
No, Mike. You've been clowning my kit game for a while. It's time for me to start stepping up.
I mean,
Any of you guys want a kilt? I've got plenty of kilts.
Not with my chicken legs. You don't want to see mine.
We'll talk about it. All right, Cam, great to have you on. Great to talk with you about the Six Nations. We'll get you back next week, as always, to talk about the Haps in the land of enchantment. Thanks, as always, for joining.
Pleasure as always, boys.
Good to see you, Cam.
Take care. We're going to switch gears and bring on our favorite Liverpool, Eastern European, historian, everything of that ilk. Professor Matt, my friend, how goes it this evening?
Doing good, Mike. It's doing good, Stead. It's been entirely too long. I love
Absolutely.
the beard, Mike.
Well, and the funny thing was, up until this morning, I also had the Nipsey Hussle cornrows going.
Yes.
But I want to get them redone on Friday. So when you have your hair braided, you need to give it a couple of days to breathe.
Mhm.
So I had to take them out this afternoon. But maybe for the next show, the braids will be back in. So we had the braids, we had the beard, we had the true full, I was really getting my Nipsey Hussle on. I just didn't have the face tattoo. All right. So just as an aside, that we were talking about all the stuff that's going on. Because I've relocated to my family room from my office, I have a TV out here that's right next to the desk. So I'm kind of sneaking peeks over here because I've got the last innings of the England-New Zealand test going on at the same time. And it looks like it is going to come down to the wire. So who said test cricket can't be interesting? Anyway, Matt, a couple of our Eastern European leagues get back underway. But first, let's talk about this Shakhtar Donetsk advancing in the Europa League.
Yeah, huge result for them. And at the moment, they're the last Ukrainian team flying the flag in Europe. So sort of collectively, I think, not just Ukrainians, but the diaspora like myself, interested parties like Chelsea Mike, are pulling for them. And I was going to mention this when we talk a little bit about the UPL. The job that Jovanovic has done as the manager, getting the job literally before the season started, with pretty much the entire core of that team as it was constituted last year, aka all the Brazilians now gone. It's kind of remarkable how far they can go in this tournament. I don't know. They had some issues scoring goals before they sold Modric. They're having significant issues, it seems, scoring goals without him. But it's not an undoable tie.
All right, so you mentioned that the UPL is going to come back. They're back after their winter break, I guess. Give us a brief overview of where things stand right now in the Ukrainian Premier League as we get into the second part of the season.
Okay, so there are, and normally with a lot of the Eastern European leagues, because you have the long winter break, you see teams do more during that January transfer window. This year, for rather obvious reasons, there were moves, but there weren't that many incomings. A lot of outgoings, which me and Chelsea Mike spoke a little bit about. I mean, the big one obviously being Modric to Chelsea, but Ilya Zimbrani, the young center back, going from Dinamo Kiev to Brentford. So there's been a lot of outgoings as opposed to incomings. If you look at the top of the table, there's 4 European places. First place, automatic Champions League group stage. Second place, Champions League playoff with the possibility to then automatically go into the Europa League group stage. And then the 2 Conference League spots.
You have a Europa League spot for third too.
Is that technically a Europa League spot? I thought that had been changed because of the coefficient.
No, I think there's a Champions League spot. There's a Champions League playoff spot right now, a Europa League spot, and then 2 Europa Conference League spots, a group stage and a playoff. So right now, Dnipro 1 are holding on, but they've played a game more, but they as you know, they're up 5 over Shakhtar. Dinamo Kiev sit in the Europa League spot.
So it's Zoroya and Alexandria in the ECL
Conference League.
Okay. Yeah, Dnipro on top, Shakhtar second, level on points with Dinamo, but with a better goal difference. And then Zoroya and Alexandria. Which kind of, I guess, is what I sort of expected at the beginning of the season. I will say this: I thought Dnipro were going to finish top 3. I didn't think at this point in the season they'd be leading the way. But when you have, in terms of squad depth and in terms of squad continuity from last season, they are the least changed of all 5 of those teams. They built with a Ukrainian core as opposed to a Brazilian one in the case of Shakhtar, or they have young guys as opposed to Dinamo. And when you have the best striker in the league and arguably the most informed Ukrainian striker in the world, in Artem Diobik, that's useful. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets him in the summer. I have a sneaking suspicion that they can hold on and maybe win this. The reason I say that is, as good as Shakhtar's been and as impressive as they've been.
All right. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty. So, Matt, we're going to invite you to go back and restart that point about Dnipro and their strikers and stuff like that.
Yeah, Dnipro are currently 5 points, but as you said, they've played 1 extra match, and they're on top of the table. And I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised that they're there. Yet at the same time, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say that they're probably in best position to finish out and wind up winning the league, mainly because there's been a lot of squad continuity. They had this young home-based Ukrainian core to begin with, and they have in Artem Diobik not just the league's highest scorer, but arguably the most informed Ukrainian center forward in the world at the moment. And those of us who have watched the Ukrainian national team, in the last couple of tournaments, we know this guy. He's the guy that comes on and scores those late important goals. As much as I've been impressed with Shakhtar, and as much as I've been genuinely impressed with the job their manager has done, I think he probably should be up for manager of the year, considering he took the job literally, right at the beginning of the season. The lack of that squad cohesion and the fact that they're still playing in Europe, I think could be their undoing. Right? Because in years past, especially with, a squad of Brazilian guys that you'll sell next season, they were able to kind of sleepwalk through the league. I don't think they can do that now. And I think 3 fronts, because they're still technically alive in the domestic cup, might be too much. As far as my beloved Dinamo, I don't know. They're always a tricky team to predict the second half of the season because they have a loan system that operates quite like Chelsea's. Part of that Soviet heritage is every young Ukrainian player wants to play for Dynamo at some point, but you can only register 25 guys. And so, you have this massive loan army that's like scattered to the four winds, but every January, like 10 new guys wind up being in the squad, and you have this rotation. It's going to be interesting. Obviously they sold Zambrani, they sold Tashankov, and to get to Tashankov, it was time. I've been saying that he needed to make a move for the last 2 years now. There are two players, younger players, one a foreign player and one a domestic guy, that I think could make some noise second half of the season. Samba Diambi, a young winger, and a 17-year-old sort of Swiss Army knife in the midfield, can play 6, can play 8. Just remember that you heard this name first here, Andrei Yatsuk. So but I think maybe they can make a run for that second Champions League or the Champions League playoff spot. But I think third is probably where they belong. And then Zoroya and Alexandria simply on talent probably round out your European spots.
Well,
And then
no, go ahead.
Looking further down the table towards the relegation places, Lviv is going down. Lviv are terrible. They have 9 points, and from what I've watched of the league and what I've watched of them this season, I don't know how they even have those 9 points. At the moment, right, because it's 16 teams, so they do the 2 straight relegations and then the promotion relegation playoffs for those next 2 spots. At the moment, it's Chornorets Odessa that be going down. I don't think they get straight relegated, though. I think they at least get themselves into one of the promotion playoffs. And the reason I say this, they've actually made some moves during the transfer window, and they have a new manager. And I think they could probably leapfrog Iligalits, and I think Miniana, which is currently sit at 14th. That would be the other team I think gets relegated, simply because I looked at the squads briefly on Transfermarkt. And I know my Ukrainian football. I'm aware of guys. It's bad when there's a team in the Premier League where I can't recognize. None of the guy is one of this like ex Dynamo, lone army dudes. Like I've actually never heard of any of these people. So it doesn't bode well. Good news in general in terms of like, getting to watch the Ukrainian Premier League. They have now an official YouTube channel, and for a relatively small fee, you can watch replays of the matches with Ukrainian commentary. But starting the second half of the season, you're going to be able to watch live matches. So
it's also going to have you Ukrainian commentary.
You can do the Ukrainian commentary. I've heard mutterings that that you might be able to. They might be doing English language, but I think they're floating this out there as a test balloon first to see what kind of viewership and subscriptionship they get, and then maybe move on.
Well, they could easily find some bloke in Northeast England who will gladly go out there and talk. There's so many people who would love to do that. I'm sure they could easily find it.
In terms of this first set of matches, there's no real big ones. The two that I'm going to be mainly paying attention to is Alexandria versus Dnipro and Dynamo Kiev versus Inualets, which are both on Saturday. The big one, actually, while you guys are probably watching Six Nations, Sunday, March the 12th, I'm going to be watching Dnipro Dynamo Kiev, because if Dynamo has any chance of, I think, realistically, getting, potentially winning the title and closing the gap. They need that one. Moving on from Ukraine to another league that.
Well, let me ask you this, because Central Asian sport,
yes,
is something of an enigma to those that are outside of that part of the world.
Outside of most damn near everybody.
But anyone who's familiar with people who come from there know some phenomenal athletes at that part of the world. In fact, Shavkat Rakhmonov, who's a up and coming UFC fighter, who is one of the scariest dudes in the division, is putting them on the map as far as, because that part of the world has phenomenal combat sports athletes. But the fact that you're looking at a country that is emerging from an economic standpoint, their tourism industry has grown, and not simply from Borat. It's actually quite an interesting place to go. And, I was in a rabbit hole on YouTube one night when my daughter decided that she didn't feel like sleeping. And I was watching travel videos from the cities there. It's a very beautiful country. It's stunning. They've switched about 20 years ago. They switched from Asia to UEFA, where their confederation. They're trying to grow the game there. Their Premier League isn't all that old.
No, this would literally.
But it's coming. It's coming. And they have an ample population who have a pedigree. This could be a region of the world where you're seeing the game grow significantly. I used to play soccer with a guy from Uzbekistan too, who was a phenomenal player.
Well, if you follow the Asian game, Uzbekistan is that Asian country that's always just right there.
Yes, if they could
One
get,
day
if they could
qualify for a World Cup.
Exactly. If they could just get by Saudi Arabia, then they would be there. Because yes, they're not going to compete with Korea or Japan. They're not. But
at this point, but
yeah,
they could be that fourth or fifth best.
I would love for one of the stands to get in. That would be fantastic.
The stand that we are talking about, and thank you, Stead, for setting that up, is Kazakhstan, who's, as you said, whose Premier League, literally, I think this is their 30th season, sort of makes sense, dissolution of the USSR. I have to be honest, I know quite a bit about their national team, because since switching over to Europe, which I thought was a really smart move, because I was like, you will take your lumps, you'll get your ass beat, but after 20, 30 years of getting your ass beat in Europe, you will get better, whereas being an artificially good team in Asia, perhaps not as productive. It's sort of like Australia going to Asia, right?
Absolutely.
Dominate minnows in Oceania, etc. Their Premier League is a little bit of a mystery to me. I'm familiar with two clubs, Kairat, which was the old established Soviet era Kazakh team, played, quite a number of seasons in the Soviet Vysshaya Liga. And Astana, which has been the dominant force the last decade and a half and have made some runs in the Europa League.
Yeah. And it's a relatively new squad. They haven't been around that long. I think they've been around less than 20 years.
Well, the city, and that's the thing. I think they're still called FC Astana, but the city has a fascinating history. The city used to effectively just be a Soviet era railway junction in the middle of the goddamn steppe. And then the former dictator, president for life guy, by the name of Nursultan Nazarbayev, said, you know what, we're no longer part of the Soviet Union, even though like half of our population is Russian. We're doing decolonization. Therefore,
we're getting out of Almaty
from Almaty in the south, and we're going to move it to this rando town up in the north. But here's the deal: we have a lot of natural gas money. Back to their economy is growing. There are resources here.
Yeah,
and we're going to take this and transform this little place in the steppe, because I'm going to hire a bunch of, the same architects that built up Dubai.
Right.
And so you have, and I've been there, and it's freaking weird.
It's beautiful though.
Dark.
But there are no trees.
No,
There's no trees in the whole
yeah,
city.
it's grassland. It's this weird like slice of what you would just consider like the Gulf in
Yeah.
weird, barren kind of ex-Soviet wasteland.
Mhm.
The city itself is no longer Astana. It's actually named after said former dictator man. It's officially Nur Sultan.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Okay.
First name, which is like really crazy. That'd be
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you were president for life, Stead, and they would in DC. It's like, where do you live? And, but the reason we're talking about all things Kazakhstan, and I'll be honest, I'm going to be watching at least 1 or 2 matches this weekend. Those of you who have the OneFootball app, this is a new thing. You can watch all Kazakh Premier League matches live, and I at least plan on watching 1 or 2 this weekend, and I will report the next time we're on, because I think a lot of people know at least a little bit about the Russian league, the Ukrainian league, because of European exposure. I think we all got a little taste of Belarus simply because they were like the only league on the planet playing during COVID.
Yeah.
Like London would bet on it.
London Sean with his breasts.
Yes. So exactly. Central Asia
Brings back good memories.
Central Asia and the Caucasus, not so much.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely intrigued in tapping into this.
Well, I will join you in that. I'm going to see you. Well, I have the app as well. I'm going to go ahead and see. I'm going to switch the app to my iPad and try to catch a few games on that. I'll because it's interesting to see how the game is going to grow here in particular because of what you're saying. It actually it's growing economically. They have resources. They have a population. They have a love for the game. They have a love for sport in general. Now, they have to get some of the guys that play that game where they have the goat carcass and they're riding the horse and they're trying to, Now look, I lost it when I first heard about it. And then I was watching and reading some articles on it. And some of the people who live out in the rural communities that have a little bit of money are flooding money into this game. Mm-hmm. So there is also, as a country that's emerging from colonization and they're trying to find their own identity and they're trying to get their footing, it often comes through sport. Yes. So you're going to see a place like Kazakhstan who's going to say, hey, wow, we have our traditional games going on, but we have athletes that are now competing very well in Greco-Roman and freestyle wrestling. We have a combat sports history that can rival basically any country in the world.
Yeah.
We are now competing as well in track and field, which is the most universal sport in the world is track and field. So let's get our profile out there. Next to track and field, what is the one easiest game in the world to play? Football. So let's get out there and see what we got.
And there's something I think, because once I saw that you could stream it, or that was an option, I was like, oh my God, because part of the reason that the Kazakh Premier League has kind of been slightly behind its more Western neighbors is because once you were good, after about like 22 or 23, if you were any good, you left Kazakhstan and you went and played in either Ukraine or Russia. Mm-hmm. Those aren't really necessarily options anymore, are
right,
they?
That's right.
And so a lot of that young Kazakh talent is going to be in this league. Mm-hmm. And it's funny you invoked Saudi Arabia a little earlier when we were talking about Asia. I was having a conversation with a student of mine, incidentally, whose family's from Kazakhstan, because I was like, holy shit, did you know this? And if you didn't, tell your father. Because I know he's into the sport. And there's a chance, because again, there's an economy that's growing. They don't have to put up with Western sanctions. Mm-hmm. Can we see a kind of Saudi Arabia North kind of emerge with this?
Yeah.
Where it's not going to be top 5. It's not even going to be necessarily Austria or anything. Mm-hmm. But we're kind of saying, okay, well, this is now kind of a fringy top 10 European league. Mm-hmm. Because it has resources.
Yeah.
Homegrown talents actually staying there.
Yep. That's a very good point.
All right. Professor Matt, before we let you go, we do have to talk about your beloved Liverpool. And a game coming up. And a game coming up this weekend.
Yeah,
It looked like a bit of a renaissance was on the cards, and then 5-2.
yeah. And you guys all saw what I had to say as things were happening. We simply got outclassed. Real Madrid came into Anfield. They beat us up. They took our lunch funds. I think they went home and did things to our sister. And after that, they stole all of our old man's beer from the fridge. In terms of tactics, and I will talk a little bit about some of my issues with Jurgen Klopp's tactics, or in his tactical inflexibility before we bounce today. I don't actually have an issue with them being that open, at least in that match, and the reason for that is twofold. We lack the midfield to control and kill off a game. When it was 2-0, you all saw me in the chat. I said, we need to go for more. We need to score 3 and 4 because I don't feel remotely comfortable. And that will leave you exposed to the point where you could get 5-2'd. The other point is, and going back to we were up 2-0, then we weren't. This is Real Madrid. This is the Champions League. And it's this particular Real squad. We saw this last year. Happens the first time, it's coincidence. Happens the second time, it's lucky. Happens a third time, it's, it's a trend. It happens a fourth time, it's juju. It's witch doctors at play. No lead, home or away, is safe against this team, as far as I'm concerned. And so actually I didn't, if you're gonna crucify Klopp, crucify him maybe on his, selection, maybe crucify him because I thought he made substitutions entirely too late, and they were weird substitutions. But in terms of the tactics, the overall game plan, I actually don't have a problem with it. Yeah, it's high risk. Yeah, you can get burned, but we lack the personnel at the moment to sit back and allow, a team of that caliber to try to control a match with a team of that caliber. We just don't. We don't have the horses.
So the next game out that they're going to play is against a Manchester United. Well, so they play Crystal Palace, and that's a draw, and you'll play Wolves before you'll get to this particular game. The hallmark of the season has been these false dawns, if you will. You go off of a couple of weeks where you don't win and you lose and you get beat. Win 2-0 against Everton. Go to Newcastle. We talked about Newcastle, Stead and I did, about the fact that kind of goals have dried up. They can't score, and they get the red card early against Nick Pope. That changes the complete complexion of the game. Liverpool run out 2-0 in the game that to be 100% honest, they probably should have gone for more. You get 5-2, and then on the weekend, it's a 0-0 against Crystal Palace. You got Wolves coming up Wednesday, and then Man United in the Derby game on Sunday. Man United will have played West Ham, but they're coming in and they're hot. Liverpool are up and down. This has the makings of another great Anfield night. This also has the makings of another Anfield disappointment. Matt, I want to get where you come down on what's going to go on in these next couple of games.
One of the big lessons I think we all saw, and meme them, say what you will about them, if Nunez is not in the front three, we have problems. Even if he isn't scoring, he creates just enough chaos that creates opportunities for somebody else. If Nunez doesn't play this weekend, I think this is the most trepidation I have had going into a derby match with your boys, Mike,
Mhm.
since Mourinho's first year with you and Klopp's first full season, where it was clear that there was a disparity. Even when you guys were like actually half decent under Ollie, I was like, nah, we got this. We got this. I think we're gonna find out a lot about not so much your boys, because I think United are what they are. They're improved. I don't think this is the finished article, but I mean, compared to where we were in the conversations we were having last year, it's not even close. No Nunez, though, I think this could be a real problem. And this is the first time in a long time I've actually said this. If you look not at their careers, because that's crazy, but if you look at this season, Eric Tim Hogg, who still looks like an alien, but that's beside the point, has been the better manager, because United, and I'm sure Mike you'd agree with me here, they're not playing totally Tim Hogg ball because they don't have the horses. But what has he done? He has been tactically flexible, and he's found a way to work and get the best out of what he has.
I think he's at a slightly different point in his tenure where he's doing what Klopp was doing when Klopp first took over, and Klopp needed to build a squad because early in Klopp's tenure, we said Klopp doesn't have Klopp's team. The difference is that Klopp built Klopp's team. Klopp got trophies. Klopp got a league. Klopp got a Champions League. Klopp got cups.
But we also got that once, because the problem, particularly that second full season and even into the third, was, and again, I say what I said the last time I was on. I am still clubbing, but I have more questions than I necessarily do now. And that
It's what we know about Klopp, and Byron Robb can testify to this, is one of the issues that he had
I think
with
that's where we're going. Yeah.
one of the issues that we had at Borussia Dortmund when he left was he built this club that took over the world, won the Bundesliga, made a Champions League final, won the Pokal, won what they could win. But when it came time to rebuild the club, he just couldn't get the right pieces in to continually do it. Now, the situation is different here versus Borussia Dortmund, where, at Borussia Dortmund, he was perpetually losing his best player every year and trying to replace a part that fit perfectly with something that needed some adjustment, right? When Mario Götze goes, or Shinji Kagawa goes, and you bring in Heinrich Mkhitaryan, it took Mkhitaryan a couple of years before he finally fit in. And to be honest, Klopp wasn't even there when that happened.
Yeah, his best years were under Tuchel.
Yeah. Now, Klopp seems to say, like, I'm going to sit and see this through, but he has to rebuild the midfield. And that's going to be the issue coming up this weekend is, I never thought that I would question right now, especially at the beginning of the season, Liverpool's midfield with Thiago and Fabinho and Jordan Henderson or Naby Keita or whoever else is playing in there versus Man United's midfield. But the fact of the matter is, and I think all three of us can agree on this right now, in Casemiro, Manchester United have the best midfield of the group, right? You know,
As decimated as we are, we would take Shakhtar Fred. Legit.
yeah. And
Shakhtar
so
Fred walks into our squad right now.
you've got a guy in Marcus Rashford who is basically scoring goals for fun at a pace that exceeds what anyone on Liverpool is doing right now. You know, I don't know that, you know, I think right now, if you went and did a combined 11 of the teams, I think you'd probably come up 5.5, 5.5.
I would agree.
And that tells me that this is pretty much an evenly matched game, even if Manchester United are sitting in third and Liverpool are out of the European places right now. The question is, you know, a win in this game, and Liverpool need this more than Manchester United do. That's just a fact of the matter. And they need this more.
And it's
at Anfield.
Which gives me, that's what's sort of giving me hope. And I guess if we are going to talk European spaces, or dare I say even top four, because even though I don't perceive that, it's still like mathematically, it's actually still there.
You only need to really get the teams that you need to get above a bowl.
That's exactly
for you.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. And Chelsea Mike over the weekend absolutely hit the nail on the head. And he was just like, the greatest problem is just consistency. Because when I look at the table, Stead, your boys are clear, Man City's clear, United's clear. But after that, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust Tottenham. I don't trust Newcastle. I don't trust anybody else. The problem is at the moment, I can't trust us for more than 2 weeks at a time.
I think that's what's going to make this European race as fascinating as it can be as we come down to it. Like you just said, I do think it is becoming more of a two-horse race for the title than anything else. Now, a good week for Man United. They win. They beat Liverpool. Man City slip up like they've been wont to do this year. And all of a sudden, that narrative changes and Man United are back in the title, are really back in the title race. But I think the top three right now, if I had to pick it, I think the top three right now, as we look at it, is what the top three looks like a lot. Maybe not in that order, but I would say those will be the three teams that would be in the Champions League. But then you've got this group of Newcastle. The goals have dried up.
Yeah,
Spurs.
and they're struggling. They've only got 6 points out of the last possible 15. They're really struggling.
Yeah, they're falling off. Spurs
is rebounding currently, but
they can also fall back off.
Exactly. Nobody, I mean, yeah, Spurs' form has actually been good, but no one trusts Spurs right now.
And
no one does.
Their whole trajectory under Conte, they have been the most Jekyll and Hyde.
Absolutely.
Of the top six.
But this is my take on Spurs too, though, is that you know, this is the time when all of your pundits, all of your press start to release their perceived teams of the year. Kane is completely vacant from everything I've seen so far, yet he's sitting on 18 goals. I think that explains a lot.
Scorer in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that explains a lot, though, about the situation at Spurs, where it's everyone's kind of like, yeah, you know, Kane is playing actually very well because he's also playing as a false nine, and yet I don't think anyone has any faith that they're going to actually finish top four. So I mean, I would say, look, if I'm a Liverpool supporter right now, you still have 2 games in hand.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all out of the realm
against Chelsea.
Yeah, and you're done with Champions League.
Yep.
You're
Mhm.
done. You ain't got to
That
worry
is
about that anymore.
That is the one silver lining of
Right.
everything that happened.
You're finished.
5-2. It was
You're
like,
finished.
okay,
Chelsea can't score goals at all. Chelsea's finished. So it's
if we get
I just think as a Liverpool fan, I would be like, yeah, I would be definitely upset, but I would also say, look, all we need is 5 games.
Mhm.
We get a good stretch of 5 games, dude. We're in 4th.
I don't even. I mean, even less than that. You know,
Yeah.
you're looking up at Fulham. Altitude sickness will probably.
Oh
kick
my
in at
God,
some
they are punching so far above their weight, man. I'm sorry.
Newcastle, we already talked about. They're starting to slide.
Yeah.
The goals have dried up,
Mhm.
and they just can't. I mean, 11 draws, 11 draws,
That's crazy.
11 draws.
I mean,
Now,
they have the
they've only-
fewest number of losses in the Premier League,
but 11
but they
draws.
can't score any
Yeah.
goals. In the
goals.
And then Spurs, right? So it is fully possible that we could look at it and say Liverpool somehow, which, I mean, if they get in the Champions League, Matt, I got to be honest, Klopp needs to breathe a sigh of relief because
Well,
it could have gone a lot worse for him this
also
year.
in terms of the rebuild that is coming, I think that might make the difference between in terms
Okay.
of the rebuild that is coming and needs to come. I think top 4 and definitely European football, and particularly Champions League football, can make the difference in terms of several of our targets. Because I'll be honest, if I'm Jude Bellingham, which again, I don't, if we get him, great, but we also need at least 1, maybe even 2 more midfielders. If I'm looking at the situation now, and I have both Madrid and Liverpool according to me, I'm going to Madrid. If Liverpool get European football, though, and again, he's very young, you think to yourself, no, I'll go play for the team that I grew up rooting for and my parents grew up rooting for. I'm 18. I can do that whole Spain thing in 5 years.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it.
Maybe that changes the dynamic of that story. So top 4 is it's what we have to shoot for at this point.
All right, buddy. Great to talk to you this week. We'll get you back on next week,
right,
talk a little bit more about Central and Eastern
Absolutely.
Europe and, of course, Liverpool.
And I've seen Arsenal pull top 4 out of their rear end on the final 2 weeks of the season for several years. So, yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm at all for Liverpool to get top 4.
All right. Peace, gang.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Peace out, brother.
We're going to move a little bit into the continent, I think. I have no idea where this conversation is going because all I got from Byron Robb was he wanted to talk about a union. Now, I don't know whether that union is Union Berlin, the Philadelphia Union, or if he just wants to talk about unions in general. Now, Rob, I can tell that you made it to your hotel. You are very much loving your 7-1 t-shirt, reminding us of the World Cup semifinals. Rob, how goes it, my friend?
It goes very well. This is my travel shirt, so everywhere I travel to, I wear this shirt. I got a couple looks today, which is exactly what I want. But I want people to talk to me about it. Either tell me they like the shirt or they hate the shirt if you're Brazilian. Among other things. So no, this is why I wear it. I will probably retire it before the next World Cup, and I'll find another shirt to wear. Something ridiculous. But yeah, so it's I'm in a hotel again. I'm traveling for work. I'm in the middle of Georgia somewhere.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, it's it's a little crazy. A little crazy over here. Not the city life, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And
not
also,
Atlanta.
look, definitely not high Atlanta. No, I had some good chicken and biscuits today at College Park. My goodness, it's still good. So Mike, to your earlier point, look, we could talk. Look, I love unions. I can stand the Philadelphia Union, also known as the Chester Union. And Union Berlin is a fun story, and we definitely could talk
Well,
about
you
them.
were the one who wanted to talk about something related to a union. So we've established that you're all pro workers' rights and unions. We know that you don't like the Philadelphia Union. We'll get into that in the next segment when we have Chelsea Mike on, and we'll talk a little bit about MLS in the first weekend of the season. We can talk about Union Berlin and their great escape going through in the Europa League, only to then turn around this weekend and get absolutely tonked by Bayern Munich. So I'm assuming that's where you want to go with this first.
Yeah. All right. So, there's a popular expression: when you come at the throne, you best not miss. And look, Union Berlin, fun team, great support. It's definitely painting the whole city of Berlin red. And not because they're Eastern European vibes, but because it's their colors. Doing well in the Europa League, just doing this amazing things against Ajax. But let me tell you, when you draw against relegation contender Schalke, and then you have the gumption to think that you could come into Munich and get points against a great Bayern Munich, ain't happening. So I'm sorry. Look, they had a blown opportunity last week against Schalke. They only drew. They should have beat them. And I'm sorry, but if you're a Bundesliga contender, you win those games. You beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And then you're supposed to scrape by with a point or two, or point or three, I should say, against the top level competition. Union did nothing of the sort. They got 1 point against Schalke, and then they looked so pedestrian against Bayern. They had very little chances. Jordan P-Funk / Steven Chu / Jordan showed why he did not get called up to World Cup 2022. Becker was neutralized. The three players that have had a good year this year were the catalyst for Bayern winning this week. It was Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, who we now sing his name in the cadence of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle theme song. Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. Great goal today. This past weekend. Definitely showed why. We all laugh at Lewandowski getting out to the Europa League. I'm sorry, Eves. I got to bash Barca again, but. And then you have Kingsley Coman, who, when healthy and when playing, he's easily one of the top 3, top 5 wingers in the world. Just an incredible goal. And then Jamal Musiala, who's no longer a teenager, who just turned 20 years old, scored another lovely goal. Just doing things with the ball at his feet. Looks like he has the ball on the string, control it everywhere on the pitch. Just amazing stuff. And Bayern just suffocated Union Berlin. They pushed them hard into the half, did not let them escape. Union Berlin had no chances. So they need to pick up the pieces and move forth because, if they want to be a serious contender for Champions League and potentially the crown, they need in the Meisterschale, they need to pick up some points quickly here.
So if we look at the table right now, Bayern are on top on goal difference, which, let's be honest, is insurmountable at this point. They have a plus 43 goal differential. Dortmund, who has the second best in the league right now, they're tied for the second best in the league with Leipzig, is on 18. That's like a point for them, basically. Dortmund in second, tied but behind on goal differential. Union Berlin 3 points back. Leipzig 4 points back. It's going to come down to Borussia Dortmund and Bayern again, and
they meet, by the way, on April 1st. That's coming.
And that's going to be one that we're going to have to chart, because if things stay the way that they are right now, it's looking very much like that could be the game that decides the title. Meanwhile, Bayern's still in the Champions League. They're carrying a 1-goal lead back to Munich over PSG. It's funny, Stead, when I look at this, and it's like, Bayern has had some wobbles in the Bundesliga, but they're looked at as one of the favorites. They're the betting favorite to win the Champions League.
I mean, it's not entirely surprising.
It speaks to, I guess, the frailties of the other teams around them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know. I think I'm not shifting gears here too much, but it's still round of 16 for Champions League, and after what Real Madrid just did to Liverpool, it's also like, Liverpool's also kind of like, I think it's a bit early to crown them, but it's not too early to crown Bundesliga champions, though. I think we can always do that.
Well, I mean, the Bayern.
Coach Matt crowned him in September after he got fired from his Schalke job,
Hey, look, Bayern need to get through Borussia Dortmund, and they need to avoid any more slip-ups, because it's not the losses. They've only lost twice in the league this year, but they also have 7 draws.
Yep, that's killer. That's been one of the biggest problems with Bayern, is that they've dropped a lot more points than they should have. And some of the wins, like they shot themselves in the foot last week with Upamecano getting the red card. That could have easily been, a point or 3 if they had the full squad. So no, look, Stead's right. It's early in Champions League, but Bayern have showed that they're a force to reckon with in Champions League. I know Mbappe wasn't 100%, but I have full confidence, even with 100% Mbappe, Bayern can do well, and they're going back home. Where they play well here, and they're up a goal because they won 1-0 in Paris. So full confidence. I know they're going to miss Benjamin Pavard. But everyone's coming back, and Sonny's coming back. Sonny just came back for a few minutes this past weekend against when you're in Berlin, when the game was comfortably in hand. So you're gonna definitely see him pick up the pace when it comes to minutes. So it's just another weapon, And look, like the way it worked out this past weekend, you might see the same lineup minus Pavard and inserted with Meccano. For Paris, which is pretty much Leroy Sané and Serge Gnabry on the bench, which is incredible. Can you imagine any squad in the world you could bring on Leroy Sané and Serge Gnabry off the bench?
Yeah, I remember when we could do that. I remember when we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, but beating PSG in Champions League is not a big deal. It's not a big deal beating them in Champions League. I'm sorry. PSG, you had your chance to make it a big deal, and you blew it against who? Who'd you blow it against? Bayern Munich. So, I'm sorry. Bye, PSG. Bye. I mean, bye. They're going to lose. They're going to lose.
They still got to play the game.
I know, but
and
Mike, this is year 5 of the show for us. This is year 5, and I've been saying that French teams and PSG will never win Champions League because the French league, they don't compete the same way, and it's still happening. Prove me wrong, PSG. Go into the lines and win 2-1. Win 3-1. And
I want you to do. I want you to be all of this aggressive after they actually lose, because what's going to happen. You're going to tempt fate. Bayern are going to put up a stinker, and then PSG are going to go on, and we're going to end up with this stupid ass PSG versus Man City final that nobody's going to want to watch, and it'll be the lowest ranked final in the history of the Champions League, because the only reason that anybody would ever watch it would be to see if the stadium implodes on itself.
Look, let me tell you, I am very thankful. Well, if that happens, I'm going to be very thankful that my daughter's hip hop recital is on the same day of the Champions League final, because that means I will really won't have to watch it at all. Now, if Bayern are in it, I'm gonna cry at this ballet recital or hip hop recital because I'm not gonna be with my squad drinking a ton of beers and celebrating wins again. But
that's all right. We'll be there for you.
Thank you.
We'll go on your behalf.
Please do so. I know Paris won a whole bunch of titles, and I know they had a couple hiccups because Monaco won at one point for a little bit. Bayern have won 10 in a row, but they won, and they sort of made the Bundesliga not competitive for a bunch of years. But they still did well in Champions League. Minus that one round of 16 loss against Liverpool. For the most part, they've competed.
But that's the big difference, though, because even outside of that, you've seen Dortmund do well in Champions League. Even they didn't win, they do well. You saw who won Europa League last year? Frankfurt, right?
Yeah, Frankfurt. Yeah,
they won Europa League. So you see other German teams that are successful in Europe. You don't see that with the French teams. You just don't see it. If Arsenal is not in Champions League, who's Monaco going to knock out anyway? So what's the point? There's no reason for them to be there.
Yeah, I think the last French team to really put up good Champions League numbers was Lyon in the COVID year, because they made the semifinals.
And PSG did well that year, but like PSG, this entire squad has been put together to win Champions League for how long? Since they brought in Neymar. Because it definitely wasn't to win the French league.
Well, they brought in Neymar and Mbappe the same year.
Yeah,
the Zlatan left that year, but they brought in Neymar and Mbappe the same year.
Then they failed, and then now they brought in Messi, but now everyone's having a post World Cup hangover. I mean, like Paris has been kind of pedestrian when it comes to the league, and even didn't they get knocked out of the French Cup? I
think so.
Yeah. So
yeah, they brought in Mbappe a year later, so essentially at the same time, though. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Basically the same time.
Just to go shift gears back to the Bundesliga. We had to talk about the form that Dortmund is in. They have not lost or tied since November. They've just been on a roll. And they have Sebastian Haller back from cancer. Well,
absolutely.
And he has just been the guy that has been binding them together. They rallied around him. Julian Brandt has been just on another hot streak. How long it will continue remains to be seen. Jude Bellingham just keeps upping his price. And now Dortmund potentially want him to stay a little longer, so that he might give a nice raise from Dortmund. So there's still chaos, in the back line with Schlotterbeck and Sula. But man, they're just been on a tear, man. And it might come down where their next loss or drop points will be against Bayern, because I don't see them dropping points anytime soon. They're just that good. I mean, I know they got Leipzig coming up next week, which, by the way, stinks that they're the Friday game and not the top game of the weekend on a Saturday or Sunday. So for those of you who are working, please put on the Bundesliga at 2:30. It's going to be a great matchup.
I'll be home by 2:30. I'll make sure to turn that on.
I'll have it on.
Even then, I think Dortmund can beat Leipzig. They're just been on that hot of a streak, and the World Cup has not stopped that at all. We have even without Chaos Gio Reyna scoring goals, because that hasn't really happened lately. They're just been amazing. So Dortmund has become a hot ticket in town to watch, because they've just been playing amazing ball.
Well, I hope Gio's not waiting for his mom to talk to the coach about his playing time anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with Dortmund is that, when they hired Terzic to be the manager, we thought he was like a vibes manager. He's like, I'm gonna man manager. We cool. He's a younger guy, not a tactician per se. And we thought the vibes can only take you so far. At one point or another, when the games get really tough, you're going to need some tactics. and some smarts here, some in-game adjustments, and then no, they have bucked that trend. So Terzic deserves some respect here with how he's been getting a lot out of the squad. He's long past the vibe manager. I know he won a Paul call, but that was in the interim. So he does have a trophy in his cabinet. But man, like, look, if they really challenge Bayern all the way to May, it's a fine coaching job by him. He's done a fantastic job so far.
All right, we're gonna bring on Mike, our friend Chelsea Mike, Rob, and we're gonna wrap up the show talking a little bit about MLS. But before we get to the MLS, Mike, I have to do it to you.
No, you're not going to do it to me. I'm going to take control right now because you know what? There's been an injustice done. There has been an injustice done. Michael, hold on. Just give me 1 minute.
Can we mute him?
Now. No, Michael, just give me 1 minute to preach.
Mute Mike.
No, just give me one. It's not about what you think because it's not about the Chelsea men's football squad. Okay. Today, what happened? They named the men's and women's FIFA players of the year. They named the men's and women's FIFA player of the year. Leo Messi, of course. Who did they name the women's player of the year, Michael? Who did they name? They named Alexia Putellas the women's player of the year. And now listen to me. Alexia Putellas has not played since June. She has not played since June. Right here, my girl, Sam Kerr, 8 goals in her last 3 cup matches in England. Beth Mead wins a Euro. Why does Alexia Putellas win that award? Alexia Putellas looks good in a dress. It is unjust.
Well, we should have had you on earlier because we spent the first 10 minutes of the show talking about how lame these awards are and how the fact that it's bad enough that Emi Martinez got goalkeeper of the year, and you're like, okay.
And look, let me tell you, we need to clip that rant by Mike.
Yes,
because I 100% agree. Look, and Mike, you're right about she looks good in a dress. The only person who probably would disagree with you is Christy Mewis, and for obvious reasons with Sam Kerr. But Sam Kerr, as we all know, because I love Sam Kerr, I think she's amazing and solely deserves the award. Putellas has not kicked a ball in since the sun was beaming at the Jersey Shore. And it's been I'm clueless at these awards. They're dumb anyways, and we all look, let's be honest here. The real awards are when you hold the trophies, the team trophies. These personal things are just like for media, they're for journalists, to pat the backs of their sources and all that jazz. So F these awards Mike's right. It's a total injustice. Look, and Putellas is a good player, but I'm sorry, good player.
You don't play half the year, you don't get the award. You're not
Exactly.
MVP for the first half of whatever season you're playing in, no matter what the sport is, no matter what the league is. You're not MVP for half a year.
I don't even think she finished the Euro. Did she even finish the Euros?
She
didn't even play in the Euros.
Like before
There
the
you go.
Euros.
the Euros.
See, there you go.
So
Yeah.
she
Clip
she didn't play
clip it.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
that
you
doesn't
wanted
change
to
it.
ask
The
me
whole
about
thing is
Chelsea.
dumb.
Forget about it.
But you know what?
Don't even do it.
But
Who
I'll tell you this
cares?
right now:
We
anything
suck.
that carries
We're
the
terrible.
name FIFA is useless. I mean, it really is. And if you have FIFA in front of whatever you're doing, all it reeks of is corruption and incompetence. And this is nothing more than a continuance of that legacy that they've established.
Yeah, but I'm not
It's
going to let
ridiculous.
you all dissuade me from the original question. Mike, before we get on to MLS in the opening weekend, what in the entire blankety blank is going on at Chelsea?
Who knows? We're terrible. I don't know. Who's our best number 9? It's not Kai Havertz. But you know what? Kai Havertz is out there every week as our number 9. who's our best starting 11? I don't know. You know why? Because Mason Mount continues to find his way out there and he continues to do nothing. They have us in a back four right now, Graham Potter does. And look, you want to debate about Potter in, Potter out. Forget about that. It doesn't matter. Graham Potter's certainly going to be there until at least the end of the year. Because who are you going to replace him with? No one. And it has to be there. But so he's got us in a back four, which neutralizes our two best offensive threats, who are Reece James and Ben Chilwell. And yeah, I know they're coming off injury, but Joao Felix looks like he's the only guy out there trying, and Joao Felix needs it because he doesn't want to have to go back to Atleti and sit on the bench again. He wants to play, and he wants to play at Chelsea. And it's just, we have a 9. He's Aubameyang. Play him, and don't put him in when you're down 2-0.
But you know what the
stop
solution
putting
is?
Mason Mount out there. Mason Mount wants to go to Liverpool. Send Mason Mount to Liverpool so he can not play his natural position, which is 10, at Liverpool, and he can make Liverpool suck. It's terrible. This is absolutely terrible. I've never felt this bad about Chelsea Football Club. I'm sorry, I'm charged up this week. My team sucks. Injustice is being done in the world, Mike. I'm not having any of this.
You know what the solution is, instead? Chelsea needs to go and buy another winger.
Of course. Absolutely.
Buy Jude Bellingham. He'll make everything better.
No, go out and buy another winger. Neymar's available. Buy another winger, because when in doubt, buy another winger. All right, gentlemen, it was the first weekend of the MLS season, which means that we are approximately 6 weeks away from being able to do an adequate MLS preview. But I will say it was a interesting weekend, and it is still going on because Portland just kicked off. We're recording this show and it's about 10:30 Eastern time. So Portland kicked off about 20 some odd minutes ago in theirs. We had some amazing comebacks. Thiago Almada for Atlanta United coming up with 2 late goals and an immaculate free kick, so that they ran out winners. Last year, we talked a lot about Austin FC and what they were doing, and then they go out and drop 3-2 to St. Louis. The proper name being St. Louis City SC. We've talked enough about MLS naming conventions. We're not going to do that.
SLCSC.
Yes, SLCSC. Yeah, it's almost a palindrome, but it's not.
Like a supporters club.
Yeah. DC United goes down 1-0, comes back late, wins 2-1.
No, 3-2.
3-2.
Yeah.
3-2? 3-2. Goes down 2-0 and comes back and wins.
And Christian Benteke scored a goal.
I think
Yes.
Christian Benteke would be, if I had to do preview, I think Christian Benteke will end up probably scoring upwards of 20 goals and
He
should.
He could not score for Crystal Palace, which was sad, but he should absolutely, especially playing with Wayne Rooney, playing under Wayne Rooney,
and playing in the MLS where he could just be the flat track bully.
Yeah, he can just stand there. He can just stand there, be big and slow, and score goals. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I also don't think that his 20 goals a season are going to do much of anything for DC.
It'll get a 6th or 7th, and that's about it. Yeah.
Might get you into the playoffs, but
Yeah.
it'll be an early exit because they're either going to win every game. They're either going to win 3-2 or they're going to lose 4-1.
Yeah,
Um,
there's going to be quite a few 4 or 5 games, I think, for them this season. Absolutely, I couldn't agree
and
more.
Mike,
of
I
course-
do want to say this. I think that this show has been, and I think that the show has been a little bit unfair to Wayne Rooney and his management potential. But as your lower league correspondent, I do want to say that the way he held Derby County together in the face of really, really bad odds, even though he was not successful in keeping them up, if they had had the points that they were docked, they would have stayed up, despite the fact that they had no players. I think that he is the kind of guy who gets the best out of people.
I'm going to
think they're
check
going to
you.
be in contention.
I'm
but
going
I
to
think-
check you because I've been nothing but supportive of Wayne Rooney, and you know it, Chelsea. Chelsea, Mike, I've been very supportive of Wayne Rooney. I don't disagree with you. I don't think it's necessarily due to Wayne Rooney. I mean, I still think DC United is trying to figure out their squad, and it's going to take a miracle for them to actually be truly competitive this year. I think the biggest mistake they can make, though, is thinking that this is the year they're going to be good, and to just say, Wayne Rooney, please don't leave and stay here for a few years so you could actually build a successful team here.
I will tell you that the preseason rankings had DC United just above SLCFC in like terms of the 28th out of 29th worst.
Yeah, but as Mike
I
said
think that
before, we
you're
got to
gonna
wait 6 weeks
see-
before we know anything anyway.
I think that you're going to see a team out of that comes in, from in the 10 to 12 range that's going to surprise you just because of how bad they were last
But
year. And
they
I think it's
might
going to be
sneak it.
Wayne Rooney who's going to be the difference there.
If Wayne Rooney gets this team into the playoffs, then by all means, because what he was doing at Derby was an emotional job. It was a lot down to his access to a Rolodex that got players to come in that probably wouldn't have signed for them and to pay for little to nothing. And he had access to it. It's already paid dividends at DC United. I don't think that there's another manager outside of Wayne Rooney that could have easily gotten Christian Benteke. Remember, they got him last season. Who could have just said to Christian Benteke, hey, come play for me. I still have a lot of questions, and he needs to prove he can win games tactically. And that's what this job is going to be about, because I think he can do the rah-rah thing. I think he can do the us against the world thing. I think he can get the guys motivated from that emotional standpoint. But what is he going to do when that is not there for him? What is he going to do when he comes up against LAFC? When he comes up against
Philadelphia,
for that matter, when he comes up against Cincinnati, and it's not a matter of rah emotion, it's coaching, it's tactics, and it's the fact that you've actually got a team that just does not have the level of consistent talent that you're playing with, right?
Well, Michael,
So-
I think the short answer to that is you just draw all those matches and then they give you the job at Chelsea. Sorry. I'm pissed off. Sorry.
All right, but so I am enjoying slightly pissed off, Mike. It is fun.
I am too.
And-
Great.
New York Red Bulls, Rob. I think it was a win for them, or am I lying?
Nope. It was
Oh, they
you're
lost.
lying to me. Don't insult me that way. No, so the Red Bulls played a good game. They should have came out with at least a draw. Penalty in the box. Orlando makes it.
Oh, that was
and-
Orlando's only shot on target the entire game.
Yep, exactamundo. But look. At the end of the day, Orlando City has one of the best keepers in the league, in Pedro Gallese, the Peruvian. I'm not showing any bias, by the way, here. Yes, I am. But so no, the Rebels played well, just but well enough. Well, it's not good enough for points. They didn't get a point here, which is terrible. So the home opener is coming up this weekend. I believe against Nashville. Should be fun. Or not, well, maybe Nashville. I'm not sure exactly. I could be wrong. Oh no, it's Nashville. So it should be a fun crowd. But Red Bulls lost. They gained to Belgium. I forget Dante's name. He should be. I think he might play this weekend. And I know you guys saw the Union game. I know you guys saw the Philadelphia Union game.
Well, I saw it is an operative word. Followed, yes, saw later on.
Oh,
Yeah, that was me with the DC United game. It was on. That's about it.
well,
No,
you know what? You know what,
I'm not
Jen?
gonna
I
lie
saw
to you.
everything.
It was probably the only Union game that I'm going to see this year because I'm not paying Apple.
Mm-hmm. I was
Whatever
at a birthday
money.
party, so I watched a little bit of the replay. What I do know is that the Union let in an own goal, scored an equalizer before halftime, and then realized all of a sudden, yeah, you know what? We're actually a little bit better than this team, and then proceeded to go out and prove it. Now, if you want to get technical, Jim Curtin moved his line back a little bit, trying to force them to play, force Columbus to play through that midfield, which they could not do. And it worked, and they won out 4-1 winners. So after the first week of games, the Philadelphia Union sit on top of the Eastern Conference, which was a place where they left it last year.
Mhm.
So, 90% of the minutes that were played last year, they returned. So that is going to be a tough team to beat. And it's hard to look past a rematch. Now, we all amongst us know that the MLS season really, really doesn't start until later on in the summer transfer window, because that's when we actually figure out who's who. Like, for instance, LAFC may have holes, but if you don't think that they can fix them during the transfer window, you're lying to yourself. So right now, it's about doing the best that you can to stay above water, get off to a good start, and keep it going. So
Wait, can I ask the question? Why didn't LAFC have a game this weekend?
No,
I know
it
why.
snowed in LA.
That's right. It snowed in
snowed in
LA.
LA.
Listen,
And they're going to play the Rose Bowl.
No, wait a minute. As a person who has sat through a game in the River End in Chester in February in the snow, why didn't LA have a game this weekend?
Because they don't have plows, you clown. It never snows in LA. As Tony once told us, it never rains in Southern California, let alone snows. So they didn't play because they physically did not have the equipment to clear the stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Tony, one of the greatest R&B bands of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Yes. Anytime that I can pull a Tony quote on the show. In fact, I'm ending the show right there. I just pulled Tony on the show. Cut. Good night, gentlemen. We have done the best that we will ever do. It never rains in Southern California, let alone snow. All credit goes to Raphael Sadiq. No, I'm not letting any of you all talk again after that. So we did all right this week. It's been fun for Celtic Cam, Professor Matt, Bayern Rob, Chelsea Mike, and of course, producer Stead. I'm Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Catch us next week.